Thank you, Madam President. I rise to honor Detective Brandon Moore of the Morrow County, Ohio Sheriff's Department and Ohio's first recipient of the Congressional Badge of Bravery. Established in 2008, the Congressional Badge of Bravery is an annual award from the U.S. Attorney General to public safety officers who display bravery in the line of duty. Earlier this month, Congressman Jim Jordan, a Republican from that part of Ohio, and I had the honor of presenting the award to Detective Moore, along with Morrow County Sheriff Stephen Brenneman and sheriffs and law officers, enforcement officers from across central Ohio and throughout the state. It was an honor to meet Detective Moore, to hear his story of heroism, to see his humility firsthand. 15 months or so ago, in October 2010, Detective Moore was shot multiple times, nearly killed in the line of duty during an ambush and firefight. When you hear what happened, you might be able to imagine the scene. Then Deputy Sheriff Moore received a report of neighbors engaged in a property dispute. He went to the scene, but in the course of the investigation, he suspected criminal drug activity in one of the homes. The story quickly turned to the unimaginable. One of the neighbors came out of his house with an assault weapon and started firing. Detective Moore was shot in the groin, the leg, the foot, and the abdomen. As Detective Moore described it, the normal reaction of fear, shock, doubt, and panic was overwhelmed by a calmness that only highly skilled police training could provide. Severely wounded and laying on the ground, Detective Moore first used his belt to tie a tourniquet around his leg. He then shot and disabled his assailant from 50 yards away. He saved himself, he saved 3 civilians, and probably other officers. His injuries were so life-threatening that he made the call to his wife, Deandra, his high school sweetheart, explaining what happened, wanting her to know how much he loved her and their children, Alec and Andrew. Fortunately, help quickly arrived. Detective Moore was airlifted to the hospital for multiple surgeries, and he's had several since, where he stayed for a month. Law enforcement from across central Ohio visited the hospital to show their support, speaking to the solidarity of a sacred brotherhood and sisterhood. Today, Detective Moore is on the road to recovery well ahead of schedule. He was told it would take 2 or 3 years before he could return to work. He thinks he'll do it in 18 months. He recently hit one of his goals, he told me, of running a quarter of a mile without stopping. Before April, his goal is to run half a mile. As difficult as the recovery has been for him, for his fellow officers, especially for Deandra and the children and his parents, he remains grounded by humility and faith and sustained by the love of his family. Deandra has been with him on every step of the highs and lows of rehabilitation. Alec and Andrew, when they're older, will understand more than most people the meaning of duty and love and faith. I had the honor of meeting Detective Moore's parents, who raised him and his siblings near my hometown of Mansfield. His parents, Mother Tommy and Father Jim, still live there. Jim is a Mansfield police officer. The sense of duty and faith runs deep in that family. It's not just for a father seeing a son follow his footsteps. It's also for a mother seeing both her husband and son put on a uniform to protect the public. As much as Deandra must worry every day when she sends her husband off, when he goes off to work, think about Tommy, whose husband and son go off to put that uniform on, go off to work to protect civilians all over Ohio. Like much of our great state, Mansfield's a place where you grow up with the values of hard work and fair play, service and community and faith. Detective Moore's story illustrates those values as clearly as any. We ask a great deal from our law enforcement officials to risk their lives every day and every night. While we may never guarantee their safety, in honoring their service, we give meaning to their sacrifice, to the officers and the officers' families. That's what the Congressional Badge of Bravery reflects, the very character of our nation that honors those who serve us. We ask, and he says, as he says himself, guided by faith in God and family and his fellow officers, Detective Moore gave. And we're all humbled by that service. Thank you, Detective Brandon Moore. A proud state and a grateful nation continue to offer our prayers and well wishes for you and your family. Madam President, I yield the floor.